Welcome to the High on Knowledge podcast. We are so excited about our guest being here today. I am Chanel.
I'm Marushka.
And we will be your co-hosts for this podcast. So specifically today, we are featuring our entrepreneurial series. And we have a very special guest who's going to be featuring on this series.
So today we've got Noluvuyo joining us. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
So today we're going to be covering your entrepreneurial journey and how you got to where you are today, from your corporate life to your entrepreneurial life, doing it with your family, and how you managed to, go through all of that. So, yeah.
Take us through your life. Who are you? Can you introduce yourself? What are you doing currently?
Thank you. So my name is Noluvuyo Gqadu, and currently I'm a CEO of a non-profit organization called CodeNgwana, which literally translates to Code Child. So in terms of my background, I've been within corporate SA in the technology space, fulfilling many roles, from being a business analyst, from support roles into project management, into IT management or head of IT, into now being CEO of CodeNgwana. And I think who am I is, in terms of my background and experience, I'm an experienced, what you call this, technology professional or woman within the technology space who's trying to solve a problem for the future digital workforce by teaching kids how to code.
That sounds incredible.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Especially now with the fourth industrial revolution. Coding now is just, everyone needs to know how to code at this point.
And can you take us through that journey? I mean, how did you get to the point where you decided that there was a problem to solve? How did you come up with that solution? And what have been some of the challenges that you've been experiencing throughout to get to the point where you are right now?
I think the journey starts very earlier on in terms of my childhood. I grew up in a small village called CodeNgwana in Ellis in the Eastern Cape. Ellis is a small village or small town close to the University of Fort Hare, which a lot of African leaders went to or attended. Where you've got the Nelson Mandelas, your Robert Mugabe, the Kenneth Kwandas, who went to the University of Fort Hare. So that's a small town where I started my educational journey in as much as, if you look at that town, a lot of the first presidents of many African countries studied there. But if you look at that town, it's a town that's embedded in a lot of excellence, but it's a town that's also under-resourced to a certain degree. When I started school, we often had classes under a tree, and the norm was to just have class in a mud hut classroom. And when I started school, the idea of just technology was no way impossible. So when I went to university, I obviously struggled to keep up with my peers, particularly my white peers who were exposed to technology. And the more I started working and the more I started seeing the divide in terms of the disparities in the workplace, I thought to myself, I owe it to myself to give back to the community in terms of how I contribute to better experiences for kids who grew up in similar circumstances as me. So that's, I think, how I started my journey. And I always say to young people when they ask, how do you know if this is the right path? How do you know if this is what you need to do? I always say to them, use your discomfort to change the world. So it's the things that kept me up at night. It's the things that made me uncomfortable that made me to embark on the journey that I am today.
Wow, that is so incredible. Honestly, that is so inspiring as well.
I know, be uncomfortable.
Be uncomfortable and then work with that. You are not your circumstances.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I love that, Noli. Thank you so much. I mean, when one looks at your LinkedIn page, you see all of these incredible things. TEDx speaker, we've got Mail and Guardian 200 Young South Africans, Inspiring 50 winner. Tell us a little bit about that. How did you get into all of these things? How did you take part in this? Were you invited? How does it work?
So I think I always say to people, we don't live our lives because we wanna scoop awards, we wanna scoop a recognition, but what becomes very important is being true and authentic to yourself. Once you get to a point of being authentic with who you are as a person, then the universe will align with that. And that's, for me, that's where the awards and the recognition comes in. Is I got to a point where I was comfortable with who Nolu is. I was authentic about my journey, and the universe will embrace that as soon as you become comfortable with that, and that's where the awards come in. So I think for me, what's important is being intentional, and being intentional becomes part of the journey when it comes to being authentic. And once you are able to be intentional, then everything falls into place. I think for me, the Mail and Guardian, the TEDx, it came through, but I think it was not luck. It was they say preparation. They say luck is, what is this term? They say it's when preparation meets opportunity. So I think even with all those opportunities that came, and people would be like, oh, you're so lucky. No, I wasn't lucky. I had prepared for each and every single opportunity that came through in my life. I had prepared for the moment of the TEDx talk. I had prepared for the moment of being recognized as one of the young 200 South Africans. I was just in a point where I was living my life intentionally and deliberately as I could.
That's so true about what you say. When somebody is like, people only see the end result, but they don't see how you got there, and everyone's like, oh, you're so lucky. But it's like, you didn't see all that you had to go through, all that you had to walk through, and the people you had to meet, and
the hard work.
It's not easy. Like, it's really hard, but then people kind of tend to downplay your success by saying, oh, you're so lucky. It's like, no, I worked hard for this. This was hard work, and I mean, you got to where you are now through all of that. So
exactly. Yeah. And I think one thing that also stood out for me is that you spoke about being authentic and being yourself. And one thing I'd like to ask you is, how do you be yourself? I know that sounds a little bit like a weird question, but I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with. A lot of people struggle to identify, but who am I? What do I stand for? When I have an opinion, is it my opinion? Do you maybe have any advice on that? Like, how would you talk someone through that?
I think for me personally, if someone asks, like, how, like in practical terms, how do you break down to what does it mean to be authentic? What does it? Because I think often at times we use the term being authentic, being true to yourself, very loosely. And one of the first steps that I got to realize for myself is that my journey and my colleagues or peers or friends' journey is different. So I think for me, the first step was realizing that I've got a unique journey to the people around me. And now that I've recognized that my journey is different to the people around me, it's the onus is upon me to embrace that. You can either be miserable and say, but why am I not achieving that, or why am I not going through the same path? Once you recognize that you've got your own unique path and you start embracing it, for me, that's what it means to be authentic. Because often, earlier on in my career, I'd look at former classmates. I'm like, oh, she's now CIO at this place and I'm not here yet, and I want to compare. Have I failed? Have I not done? Have I not done well enough for myself? But the minute you start realizing that everyone has got their own unique path, I think for me that was a game changer, knowing that it's okay. I saw this incredible image at some point where there's a bunch of stairs, and these stairs are one of the stairs are very closely knit to each other, and one of the second pair of stairs is the staircase is very far from each other. So the one that's close to each other, means that you're making progress with very small effort. And the one that's far from each other means that for you just to get to the next level, it's really hard, but you will be able to get to the point very quicker than the ones that are neatly tied together. So it's recognizing that our journeys are unique, and being comfortable and content with that without wanting to have competition with anyone. And also recognizing that your best competition is yourself.
100%. I couldn't agree more.
Comparison is a thief of joy. I stand by that all the time. I always say that all the time, because you're on your own journey, and if you're constantly looking at where everyone else is, it's going to make you feel a certain type of way. I mean, we've been studying for 9 years?
Forever. It's never ending.
Like, you look at your peers and these people are getting this and this person's doing this, and you're like,
and they're already working. That's also something for us, because we've been studying for so long. Everyone has gotten so far in their jobs, and we're basically only starting out now. So yeah, I agree. Not comparing yourself with anyone else except yourself, because that's the best person to compare yourself with. So Nolu, I have one last question to ask you, and we've always said this on our podcast. We want to give some practical piece of advice to entrepreneurs to move forward with and to be able to apply to their own entrepreneurial journey. So what piece of advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs?
So the one piece of advice, like when people ask me what would you have liked to do differently, is to start sooner. I always say to start sooner. And in a world where we want to play it safe, where I want to have enough savings, all my ducks in a row before I embark in this. But I think for me, for entrepreneurs, is follow through what you think your purpose or what you think the impact is. Follow through that and embark on that sooner. And stay consistent, because as an entrepreneur, it's very easy to sometimes feel derailed and wake up some days and feel unmotivated because the finances aren't making sense, the revenue is not there yet. But I think for me, it's being consistent and staying through the course, even when you don't see the end goal or when you don't see the full picture, but stay the course, it will make sense.
That is awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today, Nolu. It's been incredible talking to you and having this chat. And thank you for sharing your journey with other entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs like ourselves. It's really been great. Thank you so much for coming.
I think we've learned a lot. We've learned to take the leap, take the jump, don't compare yourself to anyone, and to be intentional. Wake up every day, have a purpose, make your lists, be intentional with your day. Take that leap and don't compare.
Don't compare.
Don't compare.
Thank you so much for joining us on the High on Knowledge podcast. Bye.
Bye.